Today, the men and women of the United States Air Force will welcome General David W. Allvin as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. The host for today's ceremony is the Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable Frank Kendall. We are also honored to have as a member of the official party, the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown, Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Color Guard led the charge, braving enemy fire to inspire their fellow warriors to victory. Escorting our nation's colors and the United States Air Force flag is the United States Air Force Honor Guard. This 285-member ceremonial unit is made up of various career fields from the Air Force that have served in military conflicts and humanitarian efforts throughout the world. Marching before you with pride is the United States Air Force Honor Guard. A distinctive feature of military ceremonies is the formal presentation of command to the reviewing official. After the commander of troops presents the command, musical honors will be played in honor of the Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable Frank Kendall. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the advancement of the colors and the playing of our national anthem. The Air Force Chief of Chaplains, Chaplain Major General Randall E. Kitchens, will now deliver the invocation.
I invite you to join me in prayer. Let us pray. Almighty God, we're thankful for this day, the opportunity to celebrate the Air Force tradition. For our Chief Staff of the Air Force, this welcoming ceremony, from General Spots to General Brown, and now General David Allvin. We're thankful for the leadership and care to our Air Force as we fly, fight, and win. We're thankful for General Brown's leadership in this last chapter of our Air Force history with Miss Shireen by his side. And we now ask your blessing upon General Alvin as he leads our Air Force into the future as one team into the future fight. Grant him wisdom beyond his years, multiplied rest, precise focus, and the extra measure of capacity to care for our airmen, our guardians, and families. Be with General and Mrs. Alvin in this next chapter of our Air Force history. Grant them peace, vision, and the passion needed for all that is ahead, known and unknown. Bless now this ceremony, our future, and we pray this in thy holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable Frank Kendall.
Good morning. And a good morning it is. Welcome to our distinguished visitors. I'd like to recognize Deputy Secretary of Defense Hicks, along with Admiral Grady, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Admiral Franchetti is also still here, and several other Department of Defense senior leaders. I'd also like to thank the members of Congress that are joining us today. Congressman Donald Norcross, Congressman August Pfluger, and former Congressman Mark Kennedy. There are also a number of professional staff members here. I'm grateful to see several of my predecessors in attendance, former Secretaries of the Air Force Whit Peters, Michael Donnelly, and Barbara Barrett. We finally have the opportunity to officially welcome Dave Allvin as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and offer our thanks to General C.Q. Brown for the incredible work he has done for our Air Force. General Alvin is taking on a great responsibility and a great honor, and he is the right person at the right time to take the reins of leadership for the Air Force. I'd like to recognize and thank Dave's wife, Gina, and CQ's wife, Shireen, for being here today. Please give them a round of applause. The tireless support you both continue to offer to our airmen and to the entire Joint Force now is deeply appreciated and inspiring and very valued. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize Dave's children. Now, Dave has about 20 family members here, I think, and he'll get to introduce them all, but I'm just going to mention his children. Grant, Francesca, Reagan are in the audience today, along with a very large showing from the entire Alvin family. Welcome, please. Thank you for the professional protocol team and the staff that put this event together today. I'm very grateful that, and hopefully we'll soon be planning several other events when the Senate confirms the rest of the 118 Air Force and Space Force general officers whose nominations are all still on hold. You're going to hear a theme in the remarks from General Brown and General Alvin and myself, and that theme is a sense of urgency. We are running out of time, and we have to make changes that we need to stay competitive, particularly with our pacing challenge. We need the Senate to act now on those confirmations, and we need the Congress to act now to finalize the FY24 authorization and appropriations. Time is a resource that we can never recover. General Brown understands this sense of urgency and reminded us of the value of time: accelerate change or lose. Please join me in thanking CQ for his incredible contributions as the 22nd Chief of Staff of the Air Force. CQ took the reins of the Air Force at an incredibly difficult time. He was nominated in March of 2020 and then watched as the world blew up in the months that followed. As he prepared to officially assume the role in August, the first 100,000 people died of COVID in the United States. America reacted to the death of George Floyd, and China imposed the draconian national security law in Hong Kong. All events emblematic of the challenges that CQ would face over the next 4 years. The challenges only continued during this tenure, with the withdrawal from Afghanistan and Putin's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. CQ not only helped us navigate these tumultuous times, with a calm and steady hand, he relentlessly accelerated change by ensuring our airmen were resilient and ready, removing bureaucratic hurdles, keeping us focused on the strategic competition, and building a flexible and affordable force for the future. He helped reorient the Air Force to focus on our pacing challenge and made it clear what could happen if we didn't change fast enough. I am told the original name for Accelerating Change or Lose was Accelerate Change or Die. CQ does not kid around. He ushered in our transition to Air Force Force Generation, the Air Task Force, Agile Combat Employment, all with a focus on mission command to make us better prepared to fight for years to come. His emphasis on strategic discipline kept us focused, and I believe will continue to serve us very well in his current role. CQ was the right person at the right time, and we were very fortunate to have him. For those of you who don't know, we actually swore Dave in during Corona a couple of weeks ago out at the Air Force Academy. Sitting as the acting Chief of Staff of the Air Force was somewhat detrimental to getting things done, and Dave was anxious to be sworn in immediately, which we did at the Academy about an hour after the Senate voted. We may have gotten a little bit ahead of the President on that one, but we didn't want to wait. This was at the very same location where he had been sworn in as a lieutenant decades earlier. So it was a great moment to have out there, but we're happy to have the chance to do it officially here today. When I swore Dave in, I spoke briefly about the important relationship between the Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the Secretary of the Air Force. And I'd like to emphasize some of that message today. The Chief of Staff is a unique leadership role. requires a special partnership between civilian and military leaders. It requires a trusting, personal relationship, and I'm grateful to have had that trust and relationship with CQ. I've gotten to know Dave. Dave very well, and I am confident he will also be successful in this role. We've already developed the relationship and trust that is so important to continue building on the work that CQ and I started. Dave is innovative and forward-thinking, but also has the practical knowledge and ability to get things done in the complex bureaucracy of the Pentagon. As the eighth of 9 children, he knows how to work in a large group, even when you're not the most strong or powerful one in the group, I think, in that case. But he also knows how to compete and set himself apart. He does not like to lose, and neither do I. He has been an integral part of accelerating change and defining the joint warfighting requirements that inform the Department of Defense operational imperatives. As he will tell you, he is excited to come into this position at a time when, thanks to our national security strategy, our national defense strategy, our joint warfighting concepts, and our Air Force priorities are all in such clear alignment. We are all on the same page, part of the one team and one fight across the Department of the Air Force, the joint force, interagency teammates, and allies and partners. Dave is taking the baton at full speed, and he is going to ensure that we follow through on the next leg of the race. General Alvin will also tell you that his identity is not tied to a career field or AFSC in Air Force parlance. He is an American airman. He has diverse experience and will lead an Air Force where the value of mission-capable airmen, all airmen, is clear and appreciated. He's flown mobility, refueling, and fighter aircraft, and commanded in several different settings: refueling squadron, a training wing, a mobility wing, an expeditionary wing, NATO Air Training Command, and an Air and Space Operations Center. He's especially proud of his time at European Command, strengthening ties with allies and partners. He has an impressive educational background: an aeronautical engineering degree from the Air Force Academy, a distinguished graduate of Squadron Officer School, Air Command and Staff College, and the National War College. Time at the School of Advanced Air and Space Studies, and is a Council Foreign Relations Fellow. He has spent several years focusing on strategy, the future force, and joint requirements, including playing a major role in creating the joint warfighting concept that will shape how we fight in the future. He also is the right person at the right time as we begin a massive undertaking to re-optimize the Department of the Air Force for great power competition. We are in the early stages of the most challenging strategic competition in many decades, perhaps ever. We are in a decisive struggle to ensure government by consent prevails when authoritarians are increasingly trying to create a world where might makes right. We must prevail in this competition by deterring and, if necessary, defeating aggression. That deterrence lies on the foundation of credible capability and readiness. It especially depends on combat credible air and space power. Thank you to General Brown for all you did to build that capability and readiness. I look forward to my partnership with General Alvin to keep us ahead of our pacing challenge and all the threats that we will face together. Congratulations, and thank you, Dave. One team, one fight. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown, Jr.
Well, good morning. When I became the Chief of Staff of the Air Force nearly 3 years ago, I presented my strategic approach, Accelerate, Change, or Lose. On the last page of that document is a quote from the Italian air power theorist Giulio Douhet. The quote I use often during my tenure as CSAF 22. Victory smiles upon those who anticipate the changes in the character of war, not upon those who wait to adapt themselves after the changes occur. I noted during my AFA remarks to celebrate our 75th anniversary that one challenge with the participating event, our Air Force is well versed in adapting. Accelerating change was in our DNA leading up to 1947. It has been with us ever since we became the United States Air Force. We flew this to the world by launching the Doolittle Raiders from an aircraft carrier to strike mainland Japan. And this pioneering boldness continued with the Berlin Airlift, the Cold War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and operations in the Middle East. And over the years, the Air Force developed advanced two legs of the nuclear triad: stealth, precision weapons, and remotely piloted aircraft. With each new challenge, airmen adapted to turn air power from a niche capability into a global fighting force. And again, today we must change to bring on the next Chief of Staff of the Air Force. First, I'd like to thank everyone that had a role in making this ceremony possible and making this a special day for the Alvins and for the Air Force. I realize that this entire team was planning. We were planning way back in July for various contingencies, and finally the day has come to celebrate Dave Allvin becoming the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. I also want to thank our Department of the Air Force leaders. Secretary Kendall, thank you so much for the kind words and the partnership. Secretary Barrett, who had a chance to work in my first year. Acting Secretary Jones, Chief of Space Operations Saltzman, Chief Master of the Air Force Bass, and Chief Master of the Air Force Toberman, and Benavenga. Thank you so much for all the teamwork as part of the Air Force team. To our congressional and Department of Defense leadership, to our civic leaders that are here in attendance, to all of our general officers, senior enlisted leaders, thank you for being here on this very special day. And finally, to our joint force, our allies and partners, and airmen and families here, welcome and thank you for being here and joining us for this ceremony. Now, it is a privilege to participate in this ceremony, to watch the flag get passed to Dave, and to give thanks to a phenomenal Air Force family. Sharon and I would like to welcome Dave's wife, Gina, and as a dear friend, and also the fact that Gina's been a real supporter of not only their family, but our Air Force family for the past 27 years since you first met Dave. Welcome to Dave's children, Dave and Gina children, Francesca, Grant, and Reagan, who are all off in college. We've been excited to watch over the past 3 years, getting to know you as you started to make decisions about what you're going to do and what schools you're going to go to and the like, and it's been exciting for us to watch from the outside. I want to welcome Dave's siblings, Stephen, Paul, Judy, Karen, Barbara, and Diane. And as was highlighted, Dave grew up in a big family. We have all the Allvins here pretty much today. They talked about how they all rolled out of vans and Suburbans to get here, trying to set a record for the number of people you can put in one vehicle. We also learned about Dave's rivalry and his sense of competition. I think that's all based on having to be number 8 of 9, but also the aspect of the warmth of family. And I've heard Dave talk about his family and how they get together periodically, and I think that's important. And I'm so glad you could all be here today to be part of this ceremony. With many extended family members and friends that are here, your support for all of you and your mentorship has helped shape Dave and supported Gina and made David a tremendous airman and will enable him to continue his service in the years ahead. Now, before I address why Dave Allvin is the right airman to be CSAF 23, I want to reflect on some accomplishments we did together during my tenure as CSAF 22. When I became the chief, I expressed in the ceremony remarks that we must accelerate the needed change and tough choices that we often discuss. And we did just that. We changed our mission statement and our doctrine, clearly stating we could fly, fight, and win anytime, anywhere, and do so through mission command. The action orders provided a blueprint for the cultural change necessary to address global threats. Airmen accelerated change through agile combat employment and multi-capable airmen. We strove to disrupt institutional inertia to break old processes and procedures and tactics not required for great power competition. Now, I'll be honest, we were not as successful as I would have liked, even after making the vice chief the lead action for action order bureaucracy. Good luck, Dave. We condensed guidance to give more latitude to our forces, helping to embrace innovation. and we endeavored to deepen our understanding of our pacing challenge, the People's Republic of China. We implemented new force generation models to improve readiness, published the Air Force Future Operating Concept, and worked across the Department of the Air Force team to resource the 7 operational imperatives, to transform the Air Force from the force of today to the force for tomorrow, to address our pacing, acute, and unforeseen challenges of the future. Finally, in line with the National Defense Strategy, we focus on our allies and partners, striving to be integrated by design. During my time as chief, I was extremely pleased to have Dave Allvin as my vice chief. We spent a lot of time together, not just in the office, but pretty much every weekend. We spent a little time talking via video teleconference or telephone. I'll admit, we didn't solve everything. Significant change takes time. But together, we kept laser focus on warfighting and enabling our airmen and their families to reach their full potential. After 3 years together, I couldn't ask for a better person to follow through and build upon the many ideas we've shared. Dave Allvin is well prepared for his new role as our Air Force Chief of Staff. As a Vice Chief, his leadership was essential in our budget and requirements forums, ensuring that we feel the Air Force and joint capabilities we need to address critical gaps and capitalize on our strategic advantages. He created the alignment from the National Defense Strategy to the Joint Warfighting Concept to Secretary Kendall's operational imperatives. He laid the groundwork to focus on our Air Force on an integrated strategy for our future operating concept. His success as the Vice Chief was due to his breadth of Air Force experiences. Now, you read his bio, his career may appear a bit haphazard. In some cases, hard to decipher in the military personnel system. Well, it actually is somewhat haphazard. He flew DV airlift, then he moved to the mobility community, then he became a test pilot, then he went to the School of Advanced Air and Space Power Studies, then he went to air refueling, then he focused on training, then he went overseas, then he came back to the tanker, to fly tankers, and then he moved into strategy roles for the last decade. He's played a role in strategic planning for the Air Force, the Combatant Command, and the Joint Force. I first came across Dave's work when he briefed the tank as the J5 for Yukon. Suffice it to say, I was thoroughly impressed and equally confused. When you look at most officers' careers, there's a typical logical flow of progression and specialization. Dave has none of those. He didn't follow a path, but he charted a way. He's provided us, it all provided him a wide foundation to draw on to lead the Air Force as it faces a complex and volatile global security environment. To address these challenges, Dave laid out his expectations that the Air Force's role now is to follow through. Follow through on changes that will advance our warfighting skills, from how we organize, to how we intend to fight, to how we develop meaningful operational capability, and follow through on our commitments to enable and support our airmen and their families. As we all reorient ourselves towards great power competition, we know that while technology and advanced capabilities will be critical, airmen will provide a decisive edge. Without airmen, all the technology, all the capabilities are just static displays. Airmen will operate at a new pace with greater speed, range, precision, lethality, flexibility, and resilience, focusing on mission outcomes over processes. To secure freedom, deter conflict, and if necessary, fly, fight, and win, anytime, anywhere. As Sulu Dehe once said, our future success will require that we require anticipation and adaptation. Changes to be accelerated have been identified. Now it's time to follow through. Dave and Gina, we want to wish you all the best as you take on this new role. And Shreen and I are pretty excited we get to continue to work with you for the next 4 years. Thank you all for being here, and may God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Kendall will now present the Chief of Staff of the Air Force positional colors to General Alvin, appointing him as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. Historically, the passing of a flag was accomplished in front of the unit, so all could see and witness the changing of leadership. This symbolic tradition first began in the Department of the Air Force with the first Air Force Chief of Staff, General Carl A. Spaatz, and the first Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable W. Stuart Symington, in September 1947. In keeping with this tradition, the passing of the Chief of Staff flag also affirms the commitment of our civilian and military leaders working together to better the institution. The flag is entrusted to the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne S. Bass, symbolically expressing the special trust and responsibility afforded to the Air Force's enlisted members. General Alvin will now accept the responsibility as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. By direction of the President of the United States of America, General David W. Allvin is appointed as the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force effective 2 November 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as Secretary Kendall administers the oath of office to General Alvin, assisted by Mrs. Gina Alvin.
Solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God.
I, David Alvin, having been appointed Chief of Staff of the Air Force, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
Please be seated. The second Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, decided the Chief of Staff of the Air Force should be set apart from other officers as the leader of the Air Force. He approved an embellishment of the hat band of the service cap with clouds, darts, and lightning bolts. At this time, Mrs. Alvin will present General Alvin with the distinct service cap of the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the posting of the colors. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General David W. Allvin.
Well, good morning. Members of Congress, Deputy Secretary Hicks, former service secretaries, fellow service chiefs, commanders, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, it's so great to be here this morning. You know, traditionally, the one who is incoming and taking the flag normally has the shortest speech because, frankly, you haven't done anything yet. So today, I promise to hold true to that tradition. But I do want to thank you all for attending today's ceremony. Thank you, Secretary Kendall, Chairman Brown. Sounds great to say that, doesn't it? Chairman Brown, for your fantastic remarks and the words of kind words that you said this morning. I also want to thank Secretary Austin and President Biden for putting their trust and confidence in me to be the next Chief of Staff of the Air Force. It's just such an honor to be standing here today. And I look forward to celebrating many more confirmations for all my deserving colleagues and amazing military leaders when that time and the situation is resolved. I echo the sentiments of gratitude for the amazing group who organized this event, from the entire Air Force District of Washington team, the protocol, the honor guard, the band, the SX, and everyone else who made this such a fantastic morning. To plan and execute such an event in relatively short notice takes one of my favorite words, agility. And you demonstrated that with exceptional skill and a personal touch. Thank you very much. This ceremony has also drawn many old friends from long distances, some of whom I've known for over 40 years, and many I've met along my Air Force journey. It serves as a bright reminder that the true reward in life lies in the people with whom you're lucky enough to share it. Thank you for coming. Above all, I wouldn't be here without the amazing support of my family. I have some words written here, but I think the preceding speakers did a pretty darn good job. But to my parents, who have since passed, I thank you. I know you'd be proud to share this moment, and in some ways, you are here. You are here through my 8 sisters and brothers, most of whom are here, with the members of their family to share this day. I love you all, and thank you for coming. Along with my sister-in-law, Alicia, and her husband, Jim, we have a pretty formidable family crowd to bring here today, and I appreciate every one of you. To my wife, Gina, and our children, Francesca, Grant, and Reagan, I won't even try to find the right words because time will not allow me to finish. But just suffice it to say, we're a great team. And I look forward to the continued adventures that we're going to have together. My family is the bedrock, which gives me the sure footing. And with your support, I felt there's nothing I can't do. As I enter my role as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, I do it with both humility and resolve. I'm humbled by both the responsibility vested in the office, so deftly carried out by my predecessors, and the skill, dedication, and sacrifice of the airmen and their families for whom this office exists to serve. I'm resolved to lean forward and realize the change we know must occur to ensure our Air Force can remain the most dominant the world has ever known. As was mentioned before, the alignment in our national security documents from the White House to the Department of Defense, to the Joint Staff, to the Department of Air Force is as strong as I've seen it in my entire career. Collectively, they chart a coherent course to the ready and capable future force our nation requires and our approach to addressing the national security challenges. Among the biggest challenge in pursuit of our destination is time, as the future rushes toward us at a breathtaking pace. But to our advantage, our leadership is also tightly aligned. I've been so privileged to serve and work with our current chairman when he was in his role as the chief, and I've learned much from him. We have accelerated change, and now we must turn this momentum into outcomes. The clock is ticking, and the time to execute is now. I've also had the privilege of working with Secretary Kendall and my now fellow Joint Chiefs. I sat alongside General Randy George, General Eric Smith, whom I wish a speedy recovery, and Admiral Lisa Franchetti as Vice Chiefs. We sought to support our leadership and propel our services forward in concert with our allies and partners to deliver the most potent joint force. I have supreme confidence that this will pay dividends as we all continue to work with the other sitting Joint Chiefs and our chairman. The job of our military and our Air Force is not easy, but it is simple. As nations compete for preservation and advancements of their interests, for influence, for power, for authority to shape and govern the international order, they have varying tools in their national toolbox. Our job is to ensure that when the international actors consider reaching into that toolbox for a device that's labeled military conflict, they rightfully consider that an unwise choice. And should they make that choice, we must make them regret that decision. Simply put, we deter and defeat aggression to defend and protect our nation and its interests. It's just that simple. This has been our role as a military since the founding of our country, and it remains so today. However, adjustments and variations in the execution are necessary as we adapt that mission to the strategic environment as well as the changing character of war. The current strategic environment is one in which our national interests are threatened in a way we have not seen in decades. And the evolving character of war is one that privileges speed and tempo, agility, range, flexibility, resilience, and precise lethality. These elements run deep in the DNA of air power, and it is our responsibility to the joint force and to the nation to bring these to bear to meet our pacing challenge. Speed has become a central characteristic of our current environment. As the pace of change continues to quicken, opportunities to exploit technological advancements are both more frequent and more fleeting. We must be proactive in pursuit of these opportunities and must not be shackled by the false perception that we must have a flawless plan with precise expected outcomes before executing. This is a recipe for stagnation and a losing approach. Precision is not the same as accuracy. And in a world that is increasingly nonlinear in its path to the future, the error of conflating the two is increasingly costly. Instead, we must solve for agility, initiating action in the right direction, and building in the flexibility to learn and adjust while in motion. This is the spirit in which we must pursue the efforts to optimize for the environment we face. Solve for agility and move out. This approach requires a collective courage to implement, a willingness to actually learn on the fly, and reward smart risk-taking. We must be able to respect our tried and true past experiences without becoming a prisoner to them. they won't always serve us well. The precise path ahead of us may be opaque, but the general direction is clear. We live in an age where we must be comfortable in our discomfort in order to embrace the dynamic and uncertain future. This is the challenge of our time. I'll close with just a couple words directly to our airmen. Make no mistake, you have committed to serve in a time of consequence, and the stakes for our nation are high. But you always come through. You always come through. Of all the uncertainty, you prove it every day, and it's the one thing I have ultimate confidence in. You and your families display a sense of commitment and dedication to the mission that is unparalleled. We honor this commitment best by providing you first-rate training, equipment, and an environment that allows each of you to reach your full potential as you answer your nation's call. You deserve strong leadership that empowers you and holds you accountable to each other and to the mission. You deserve the very best we can offer. To that end, this is my promise. I will spend every day from this one until I pass the baton in dogged pursuit of the change we seek and the institution worthy of your service, because you deserve it and the nation demands it. We've got the charge. Now let's follow through. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Air Force Honor Guard will now pass and review in honor of General Alvin. It is customary for the senior official to receive the pass and review. However, in this ceremony, Secretary Kendall has deferred this honor to the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General David W. Allvin. As a reminder, everyone should stand as the colors pass before them, and military members in uniform should salute. Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the United States Air Force extend a warm welcome to General and Mrs. Alvin and look forward to serving with General Alvin as he takes on new challenges as the 23rd Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Please rise and remain standing for the playing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Please join Secretary Kendall and General and Mrs. Brown in congratulating General and Mrs. Alvin in the receiving line at the center of the hangar. There will be a reception immediately following on the left side of the hangar.